I hate it. My parents are fighting right now, and I hate it. I just want to get out of here. They always fight. I hate it. Can't talk to anyone because I'm embarrassed. It's all the time now. Why won't they just stop? Okay. Deuteronomy 6:1-9. These are the commands, decrees, and laws the Lord your God directed me to teach you to observe in the land that you are crossing the Jordan to possess, so that your children and their children after them may fear the Lord your God, as long as you live by keeping all his decrees and commands that I give you, so that you may enjoy long life. Hear, Israel, and be careful to obey, that it may go well with you, and that you may increase greatly in land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestor, promised you. Hear, O Israel, the Lord your God, the Lord is one. Love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your strength. These commandments that I give you today are to be on your hearts. Impress them on your children. Talk about them when you sit at home and when you walk along the road, when you lie down and when you get up. Tie them as symbols on your hands and bind them on your foreheads. Write them on the door frames of your houses and on your gates. So I want to talk about a family here because I'm a new father of a 5-month son. So it's really important for me, and I was really bad when I was little teenager. So I was addicted to meth and alcohols and all the bad stuff. So it's just in my head that like, am I going to be a good father or not? You know, when I look at my past. But God is gracious for me. So, briefly, talk about family background. Family has been with human race for a long time. If we think of family as an institutions, it is the oldest institutions compared to institutions such as school, church, and government. But of course, it is the devil that has come and tries to destroy this family institution that used to be a very good thing. And home used to be a place of love, but now it has become a place where struggles are present. Sex parties, drinking parties, wife swapping have all moving in the home of America. Even Christian homes are unhappy, if you can see. All this we must recognize that it is part of a satanic strategy which plans to attack and destroy morality, religion, and faith. So I think we shouldn't be just sitting around and watching and to allow our homes to be destroyed. We need something like a counterattack. But we also must remember that we do not only use a weapon of the world in which we created. As Apostle Paul says, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. They are not fleshly. They are not the usual means the world employs. But they are mighty through God unto the pulling down of strongholds, bringing into captivity every thought to be obedience of Christ. We are not to wrestle with flesh and blood. This is for us to return the wisdom of God and an understanding of His principles for the home. And I like to speak largely to parents here, parents, and invite young people, young students like you guys to really pay attention to this message. Because someday you will find yourself, you will have homes for yourself, yeah. But yet you are already involved in a family. So this may not seem to have a lot to do with parenting, but it strikes at the very heart of the matter. Before we can ever be successful Christian parents, we must have our own relationship with the Lord nailed down. And just as it is important that our children see us living right, they must also see us loving right. They must see that we love the God supremely. There is a great secret behind loving God. The only proper response to man of a God like this is to love him with all his being. You shall love the Lord your God. It is not like you serve him or like to be obedient or anything, but to love him. Those other things are all involved in loving him, and if you love God in every else in life, will fall into place. As Jesus said, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all other things will be given to you. This is the key to life, to love God. It's the whole story of Christianity, the whole story of God's redemptive love. The cross, the resurrection, the coming of the Holy Spirit, the preaching of the gospel throughout the world, the believing it, the receiving of the Lord into our own hearts. All this is simply the way by which God has made it possible to obey his word and love him. There's no doubt, by nature of man, we are made to love. It's impossible for anyone to not love. For instance, if you put a prisoner in a cell, he'll be very lonely. But then if he sees like a little flower, he'll love it with all his heart. The man must love. It's what we are made to do. He can either love a person, a thing, or a car. The tragedy of humanity is what, without Jesus Christ, the fallen heart of man, to love something less than God. And what fallen man loves in place of God becomes a God in his life. Man must have a God, and this is always what he loves supremely. It might be a sport car, it might be another person, it might be an idea, it might be a fame, it might be wealth, power, or anything less than God. But in the gospel, we learn for the first time that it is possible for man to love God. This is the central reason for living. The answer to why human beings are on earth is to learn and to love God. So there are to be no other gods in our lives. Too often, children see parents like us putting everything in the world ahead of God. It might be a job, a hobby, or like hang out with friends, or whatever comes ahead of God is what I call an idol. And it's a false message to our children. Children need to know that no one or no things come before our relationship with God. He must be our focus. If we teach them that God is just for Sundays, we are going to raise a generation of infidels. If this is true, then it follows that the man or woman who knows how to love God will never go astray in life. And the child who learns to love God will be kept through testing. So we don't have to worry about if there's excessive danger in their lives. Now, we might be curious as how can our children might learn how to love God. The one priority begins with you. And these words which I command you to this day shall be upon your heart. God must be all important to you, or he can never be important to our children. Your heart must be right. Your will also must be right. Now I'm talking about perfect performance here. I am talking about perfect desire. You may be very conscious of failure in your life, as I am. Do you want to love God with all your heart? Is this the supreme thing in life to you? Do you want to love God, and do you want your children to love God? This is where you must begin. And last, from verse 8 to 9. And you shall bind them as a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them on the doorposts, on your house and on your gates. But do not take this literally, as the Jews did, because they actually made boxes which put the scriptures and then bound them around their hands to put them on their foreheads, between their eyes, and bound them on their gates and on doorposts. But it is the spirit of this passage which is the important thing. A sign is something visible which compels belief. When Jesus performed signs, he did so to compel belief in him as the Messiah. Your children watching you are to see that your love for God is reflected in your attitudes toward your neighbors and your friends. So, this message can either be encouraging or discouraging. We might be thinking, am I on the right track here? Or do I need to keep on doing this? Or we think, oh well, it's too late. Doesn't matter. No matter what you are right now, just start where you are right now as you reflect on your past. There's no point of looking back and regret over the past, because it is the nature of the grace of God that he can do the impossible no matter when and where you begin.